Hi everyone, and welcome to the Publishing Performance Show. I'm here with Alexa and Nazzaro, who is from Axel Author Group. And I'm excited to speak to them because their tagline is, "We won't let you publish crap." So I'm hoping this is going to be quite a fun interview. Welcome, Alexa.
Yes, thank you for having me, Teddy.
Thank you, no problem. So why don't you tell me a bit about your background and how you got started with books?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm a writer at heart. I've always written, and I actually studied writing in university. It's always been a passion of mine. I've always loved books. And I fell into author services a little bit by accident because I started out mainly doing business communications. And one of my clients said, look, along with everything you're doing for me, I've got an ebook I want to put out. Can you help me with that? And I said, okay, yeah, definitely. And it was really, I guess, a sudden but deep dive into the elements of book publishing and finding readers and just even designing the book and all of that. And I just really enjoyed the creative process. And so little by little, I found my business shifting more and more towards helping authors. And I guess I was just connecting with more and more authors. So that's like the brief story of how I got into the whole author space. And that's kind of it, I guess.
Brilliant. What sort of books were you writing before?
Well, I tend to write a lot of fiction. I'm actually working on a series right now, but I've been spending a lot of time helping other authors. So my own writing has really been neglected, but I really enjoy fiction. I love personal essays. But with the Axel Author Group, we just publish all sorts of different genres. So I like that variety.
Yeah, amazing. So today we're talking about book launches, which is probably one of your main specialities at Axel Group. And it's one of the things that you're most known for and you're the best at. So with book launches, why don't you tell us, firstly, tell me what is a book launch and how it works?
So essentially, a book launch is really getting your book launched into the market as strongly as possible. But I always like to preface whenever I talk about book marketing, I think it's really important to mention a couple of things. A lot of authors, many authors, especially first-time authors, they haven't given book marketing much thought. They're just slugging through their manuscript. They finally have it done. Oh my gosh, can I just see this up on Amazon? And so for many authors, marketing is not on their radar. And honestly, that's okay in the sense that don't feel discouraged. You're going to hear words today. You're going to hear tips. And maybe you're sitting back thinking, oh no, I haven't even thought about that. Those things, those elements, is this all going to be a waste of time? And it isn't, because as an indie author, even if you don't launch right, so to speak, you can always find ways to market your book after the fact. And I just think that's an important thing to say, because for many authors, they've just spent so much time working on their manuscript. They haven't even thought, launching is one thing, but then even other marketing things beyond launching, because the fact of the matter is you have to find an audience for your book, and the competition is extremely fierce. So just be aware that if you don't have marketing lined up, it's not the end of the world, but you also have to remain aware of that competition, because I still meet authors quite regularly who don't seem to be in touch with the reality out there. And they're just thinking, I'll publish my book and I'll just find my reader base. And that just isn't the way it works. So don't be discouraged, but be real, be realistic.
Yeah, definitely. I think the importance of a launch is, a great book with a bad launch might do nothing. Whereas an okay book with a great launch will start selling and doing something. So it really
Absolutely.
is the difference between making sales and not.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it. I have also worked with clients who have succeeded in reviving their backlist, so to speak. So that's what I meant really about being an indie author. That's the beauty of the indie author journey, is you have so much control over your own marketing, your own book and whatnot. So you can always revive that. I would say that at the very, very least, before launching a book, at the very least, you need to have some kind of a website. It's funny that there are still authors out there who I don't know, they see all the social media and they figure, well, do I really need a website? Yeah, you need some kind of real estate on the web that is yours, that you own. That's really important. Even if it's a basic website to start, and you can always expand and add elements to it later, I would definitely do that. I always recommend to authors, craft your elevator pitch, so to speak. It sounds like something really obvious, but so many authors, when they're asked, so what's your book about? they don't know what to say. They start going into this, finding an effective short way to describe your book in its most appealing way. That's so important. And some kind of a one pager flyer, if you will. I mean, sell sheets are a little bit more specialized, but even just a flyer, a document, a PDF. So if somebody knows someone, I want to know more about your book, I have a bookstore owner who might be interested in your book, you have something ready. So those to me are the absolute essentials. And spend time ahead of time following authors in your genre. Learn from them. See what they're doing out there. How are they engaging? Subscribe to their mailing lists. So these are all things I feel they're very doable, and they are things you can do leading up to your book launch. So at the very least, those are what I would recommend.
Yeah, definitely. And I think people get a bit scared about thinking about making an author website. They think it's going to be really
Yeah.
complicated. They're going to have to code. But actually, even with a service like MailerLite or one of those websites or email platforms, you
Yeah.
can create landing pages really, really easy with drag and drop platforms.
It is so, so easy. It really is doable, and you don't need an enormous budget for a website. Yes, of course, if you hire an agency and they take care of everything for you, there will be a price and an investment attached to that. But it is so doable. And your website to begin with can simply be your name, your branding, a synopsis of your book, buy links, certain advanced reviews, and you've got something. So no, a website, we're not like in the 90s anymore. So you really don't need to be a coder to have a really nice website.
Good advice. Now, with the book launch, I think there's a few steps that you need to go through in order to get your book launch set up in the right way. So let's assume that a book is on Amazon as well, because I think majority of people's books are going to be on Amazon.
Okay.
If we're honest, should we go through the key steps for a book launch and what they would look like for an author?
Okay, so let's assume that the book is not up already on Amazon. Let's look at that. So one of the most creative and I think most effective ways is to put together a reader fan base ahead of time. Some kind of a street team of sorts, people who are going to be really, they reflect your target demographic.
Sorry, so what do you mean by that street team? Is that do you mean like a advanced reviewer crew, or is this like a persona?
No, like really a crew they will read your book ahead of time. They will be ready to leave a review when the book is actually published. But more importantly, they are going to sustain or back up your marketing efforts leading up. So they will talk about your book. They will share the buzz. When you reveal your book cover, you will share it with those people who in turn will share it. This is actually something that I get the sense a lot of authors don't do, but it can be an effective way. And it's a very grassroots way. It doesn't require a lot of investing other than time. So you don't want just 2 or 3 people. You'd like to have several people, and they can be people There's nothing wrong with that. But as long as they do reflect your target readership so that it appears more credible, that to me is something really, really important. There's certainly nothing wrong with getting advanced reviews. There are 2 options. You obviously have the sponsored review sources, like you've got Clarion reviews, you've got Kirkus Indie reviews. There's certainly nothing wrong with those. What I always recommend to authors, however, is to be selective. For instance, when you're a children's author, and I know we're moving ahead to children's authors, but Kirkus reviews carry a lot of weight. And the fact of the matter is librarians and teachers, they like seeing Kirkus reviews. So you have to be selective about
review.
A Kirkus review is essentially, it's published by Kirkus. So Kirkus is a huge book review source. They review many, many traditionally published books, but they have also opened their doors to indie books. And so it's a sponsored review, meaning there is a price attached. But what I always tell authors who opt for this, and I don't recommend it for every author, but for the authors who do opt in for that, the idea is you just get all you really want is you want to have one good quote from Kirkus. That's really what you want. And that can make a huge difference. You put it on your book cover, you put it on your website. So those are some advanced review sources. There's also always the option of trying to go the traditional route. And those are like, for instance, for indie authors, Forward Reviews is an extremely reputable review magazine. They will not review every submission. So you have to go through the more traditional submission process. And that's where time is critical. So if you really want to launch your book properly, you will have to delay publication if you want to do certain things. You can't just get your book up and say, okay, I've waited long enough. I'll do some of these things later. The launch requires time. So advanced reviews are just that. They are advanced reviews. So especially for certain submissions, they're going to want to, they will ask you, are you willing to push out your publication date, let's say an average of 6 months? So if you're willing to do that, and even if it's just about taking a chance, but if you do land one of these reviews, it could be great for you, then why not do it? I worked with a children's author whose book was selected for forward reviews, and it's great, but it's hard to do, but you have to be willing to invest that time and be patient. So those are definitely good sources. And I think there's nothing wrong. This can be, it might sound more like a pipe dream, but there's nothing wrong with targeting authors in your genre, maybe not superstar authors who probably get solicited day and night for book reviews and whatnot, but mid-tier authors. The key here, though, is to stand out. So it's all about how you package your book, how you approach them. But there's nothing wrong with doing that, because even if you don't necessarily get a review, you might just get some responses from them. And I've had that experience too, which is really, really cool. But again, it requires time. So that's my opinion about reviews.
So you think sending your book out to authors who are already in your niche is a good way to get that first bit of feedback?
I think it's a long shot, to be completely honest, but I think it can be effective, because at the very least you will stand out. But the key is to stand out. So for instance, for one book launch, we actually put together, it was a middle grade book, and it told the story of a boy on a ship. So we created literally little ship parts, and we put the book in, and we went through a lot of trouble, but it did elicit some responses, which was really, really cool. But again, it's all about whether that's the route you want to take. But if you do take that route, it's all about standing out. You cannot just look like the slush pile. You just can't.
Yeah. So this is the bit that's like before the books actually got onto the
Yeah,
Amazon or onto this thing.
absolutely, absolutely. And then obviously from there, once your book is launched, there's nothing wrong with starting to solicit reviews. One of the things that I think is important is to nurture relationships ahead of time. So back when I was talking about what to do before the book launch, I think following authors in your genre are important, but I also think joining certain associations can be really, really effective, like the Independent Book Publishers Association. They have really opened their doors recently to individual authors. There are some wonderful educational resources that are offered by these organizations, and it gives you an opportunity to network. And you can find some influencers in those circles who can also help you. But it's relationship building, because influencers and whatnot, they will know, oh, this is somebody who's just spraying and praying. They're just approaching me. They have no idea who I am. So once again, it's a question of time. Yes, if you work with an agency like ours, we alleviate that time. But for authors who want to do as much as possible on their own, those things take time.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And so once the book is on Amazon, so what you've talked about so far is kind of creating that pre-launch buzz. So it's about
Yes.
how you get people talking about the book, how you get those, how you get the advanced reviews. Now,
Yeah.
once the book is on Amazon, and I know you've got a package which is all around the Amazon bestseller campaign.
Yep.
So how does that work? How do you do that to make sure the book is doing as well as possible on Amazon?
So, I mean, obviously there are different things you can do. One of the first things I recommend, and a lot of authors don't do this, is optimize your Amazon presence, your book's presence on Amazon. So this goes back to some of the basics, like a really good, effective book synopsis, picking the right categories, picking the right keywords. And Teddy, you and I know there are some great tools out there to help authors do that. And I really recommend that you take the time and you do that properly, so that you are in the proper niche categories. And then what we do is we will actually leverage different mailing lists to announce the book. But one of the things that I'm really careful about when I talk about Amazon bestseller campaigns, I always tell my authors, remember, the goal is not necessarily to be a bestseller. Yes, it's great to hit the top of the charts and to be there for a while. But really what it is, especially if you're a new emerging author, is to get your book out to as many people as possible in as short as time as possible. So we've run bestseller campaigns where we've had, 3,000 people, over 3,000 people over the period of a day take a chance on someone's book, on their ebook. And I think those are wonderful, really cost-effective ways to just have discoverability and enhance discoverability. It can really be a game changer, but you have to realize that you have to give these people a chance after the fact to read your book, to leave a review. So what we actually recommend to some authors is do a few of those, like do 2 a year or something, just to keep that discoverability going, at least in the beginning. So the goal here is not to be a bestseller. It's always nice to be a bestseller, but we also have to be honest that really the bestseller labels that count are the New York Times and all of those other USA Today and whatnot. But at the very least, you can really do an effective job of finding a huge group of new readers who otherwise would have probably never known about you or your book.
Yeah. When you do your launch, do you also try and get your book in other? You mentioned just now other newsletters and getting your book in front of other email lists. Now, say if someone's just starting out, where would they find those email lists? What are the best? Is it other authors or is it sort of related topics?
It's really to related topics and to specific book promotion mailing lists. So certainly if you're working with authors ahead of time, and this is where that whole advanced networking can be really effective, you can help each other. And there are so many cases where authors help each other out, especially if they're emerging authors or mid-tier authors. You can sort of piggyback on their mailing list and then they will piggyback on yours. And this can be a really effective growth, a growth booster. And I mean, that's something that we do too at the Axel Author Group is we partner with other industry peers and we share each other's knowledge and that's really effective. So yes, those are definitely good, but also mailing lists that really, they just have a very strong reader base.
Yeah. Yeah. No, of course. I was interviewing Evan from Story Origin last week, and we were talking all about newsletter swaps and how they can be really effective. So,
oh, absolutely, absolutely, I recommend that, and that too is something that can be very effective. But it requires just take your time ahead of time to do some research.
Yeah, perfect. Now that's we've gone through the pre-launch. Then you've got your launch. Now after that, you've got your post-launch, which is all about getting reviews. Now, do you have any good strategies for getting those reviews, and do you use any particular tools or websites to help you with that?
So in terms of getting reviews, so for instance, there is, for example, NetGalley. We didn't quite talk about NetGalley during the review process. NetGalley is an enormous forum. It can be really, really effective for certain writers or authors, I should say, to make their book available for review. It doesn't necessarily have to be an advanced review copy. It can be, you can use the site and the platform even post-launch. And NetGalley has many, many, many reviewers on there, and traditionally published books use NetGalley and indie publishers can use them as well. The only thing to realize with something is what happens when a platform like NetGalley just explodes in popularity is the competition becomes fiercer and fiercer. So your book, when it launches, it might be really popular and requested and solicited over the period of a couple of weeks, and then it will drop. But that's why NetGalley also offers certain advertising options to maintain your book's visibility. But NetGalley can be really, really effective as well because you have readers, and the idea is they read your book. Some of them are even open to being approached by the author, and you get these reviews and you get this contact information. So I think that can be really, really valuable as well. So that is one thing I would recommend. I would also recommend, this is where that street team that I was talking about can be useful, because if they're posting reviews about their book and they share with their networks, hey, check out this book, leave a review, it can slowly grow. But I really put the emphasis on slowly, because if you're just starting out, it's going to take a while, but you will notice if you're doing things properly with book one, you will notice things are easier with book two. So we have an author who just recently launched a book. She already has a series established and she was noticing, oh, look at that. I'm already finding readers, but that's because they put in the work ahead of time. We have another author, a memoirist, the same thing. She started out brand new with her first book. She did all the work. She really, really went on social media, engaged. She also did podcasts. So podcasts, I do want to mention podcasts can be really effective for the right author. You have to be comfortable doing them, of course. But then you will find that with book two, it'll get a little easier because you will have built a fan base. But it's so important to be in it for the long term. You cannot just sit back and do nothing, and don't measure success. Don't base it on the first 6 months of your book's shelf life. It's just not a realistic measure, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. That's interesting that you mentioned coming on podcasts, because obviously that's something I am very passionate about. But for authors, what advice have you got for finding podcasts? Because so for some of the authors that have appeared on this podcast, I've generally found them. Some have got in contact with me, but if people want to go and find podcasts, what's the best approach for doing that?
Okay, well, there are some websites. I'm sure you're aware of those websites, with things like Podmatch and whatnot. So those can be really, really effective. When we do this for authors, it's a two-tier process. We will have podcasts pitching to us saying, hey, we would love to have your author on. But then what we do is we will do our own homework and pitch our authors to the right podcasters. I think what's important is to develop, really, really build up your profile in a way that is attractive to potential podcasters and show that you have some experience speaking, being a good speaker. And this is where even some speaking coaching can come in handy, or at the very least, having on hand your elevator pitch, having on hand certain stories. Authors are always underestimating the level of interest people have in things like, what's your writing process? What's your ritual? What inspires you? But just having some information about yourself that you feel comfortable delivering is a good step.
Just a quick shout out to all the romance authors out there. Now, if you're tired of shouting into the void every time you launch a brand new romance book, then let myromancereaders.com do the shouting for you. They have a list of over 18,000 romance readers who love getting books when they're on discounts or on the free promotion. And it goes into their inbox every single day. It's got an amazing open rate, and every promotion gets on average over 600 clicks. That's a lot of new readers for your new series of romance books. So head to myromancereaders.com where you can sign up today. And what's so interesting about the way that your business works compared to maybe a lot of others that I've seen is it does feel like when an author comes to you, you kind of take them on board and say, look, come with me. We'll show you exactly what you need to do. We'll hand-hold you through different processes. If there's something you don't know, we'll help you to get to that next level or to level up your game. Like, for example, coaching and speaking, things like that.
Absolutely. And I think customization is so important when we talk about launching and book marketing in general, because there's no one size fits all. We have packages because we find sometimes it's easier for authors who can just be overwhelmed by everything they need to do. But beyond the package, we always sit down with the author and figure out who is your target market, what's right for you. For instance, bookstore signings could be really appropriate for one author and completely moot and pointless for another. Media kits, courting the media, that could be really appropriate for one author and not for another. So try not to do everything, A, because you'll probably just get exhausted, and B, I'm sure not everything will be working or right for you. You being the author, I'm not speaking to you necessarily.
Don't worry, I'm a beginner at this stuff too.
Yeah.
Now, all of the stuff we've talked about today, does it count equally if your book is in any type of format? For example, does it matter if your book's an ebook or audiobook or in paperback, or is it all a similar sort of process?
I would say it's a similar process, but I think that I like staggering the launch. So, for instance, if most authors, they will launch their paperback and ebook more or less at the same time. But when we do audiobooks, I always recommend to authors, let's hold off a little bit so that you have another piece of news to share with your network. And that is really very, very effective. What's also nice about an audiobook is you can also optimize and leverage the network that your narrator has. Frequently, narrators, they're also out there. They want to court people and they want to become known. So then they share the launch. So I recommend at the very least keep audiobook separate so that you just have a bit of a stack and it just gives you a reason to get back in touch with people.
Just a quick shout out to all the romance authors out there. Now, if you're tired of shouting into the void every time you launch a brand new romance book, then let myromancereads.com do the shouting for you. They have a list of over 18,000 romance readers who love getting books when they're on discounts or on the free promotion. And it goes into their inbox every single day. It's got an amazing open rate, and every promotion gets on average over 600 clicks. That's a lot of new readers for your new series of romance books. So head to myromancereads.com where you can sign up today. Yeah, so it's a slightly different process with audiobooks. Because you've got that narrator as well. You've got someone else who's on your team who can help promote too, because it's
absolutely. And there are different things you can do. You can release little samples. I mean, there are so many different things you can do with your audiobook. Put a sample up on your website, and audio is really, really, it can be a very nice marketing opportunity that kind of literally speaks for itself in a way, you see?
Yeah. Have you been practicing that line?
No, I actually, this is totally spontaneous. I'm going to use it. I'm going to keep using it.
Audiobooks speak for themselves.
For themselves. Exactly. There we go. A new tagline.
Now, the process we've been talking about today have been mostly for adult books, and I can see how it would work for fiction and non-fiction, but for children's books is something maybe I don't know quite as much about. I know you're experts in children's books, and basically the difference between children's books and especially non-fiction books, in my opinion, is I think it's harder with things like keywords and trying to work out what customers are searching for. So, for example, I've got this book here. It's about like how to write a sitcom, and keywords that are obvious. How to write a sitcom. That's what I searched on Amazon. This project I'm working on. For a kid's book, if it's a kid's book about, I don't know, a magic dog, for example, people don't necessarily search for child's book about magic dog because that's not something that you'd naturally search for usually. So what does the launch process look a bit like for the children's books as well?
So if we just want to look at, for instance, keywords or categories, let's talk about Amazon categories, at least for juvenile fiction, for children's books. When you think about your book, think about most children's books have some kind of a lesson attached. So what is the lesson that is attached? So it can be self-esteem, it can be self-confidence, it can be family and reinforcing the value of family, for example. Those types of things are really what a lot of parents or adults are looking for when they're looking for books. So they're not going to be looking for a magic dog, but they're going to be looking books with animals, and they might say book with a dog. And so those are things, self-esteem books for children. Those are some examples of keywords and or categories that could be really useful. One of the big things I would say with children's books and children's book authors is when you're marketing your book, you're obviously not marketing directly to children. You're marketing to adults. So you have to really emphasize what are the messages and what is the value of the messages in your book that can enrich a child's life. So that's one key difference. The other thing I would say, schools and libraries can be such wonderful marketing tools, and courting those schools and libraries, which is a whole other thing. If your book is grade level appropriate, take the time and come up with a curriculum guide with some activities and discussion questions and start courting schools for that. That can be really good. Build alliances with libraries, go to library conventions. All of these things take time, but they can really make a difference because librarians and teachers, they can really champion your book probably more effectively than just a regular reader can. So those are important connections to make. And bookstore signings, oh my goodness, children, parents are always taking their kids to the bookstore and go out there and court bookstores and do a reading, lace it in with an activity, and you have 2-3 hours where you can spend time with kids, but with their parents. And those are really, really important things. Bookstore events can be wonderful for children's authors, and building those alliances with librarians and schools.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, just having that conversation compared to the early conversation shows how important it can be to get that slightly more personalized approach, especially if you're not too confident on the entire launch process, because it is going to be different for different books, where it might not be appropriate to have a book signing for one type of book, but for your children's book, that would be the best thing to do.
Oh, absolutely. And having certain marketing materials on hand, just as a little side note, I always recommend coloring pages, depending on the age of your target reader, coloring pages, different activities. Those are all wonderful things to include. But yes, coming face to face, because you also build a bit of that credibility with a child. Children love meeting authors. They think it's incredible. And it's a nice way to also build relationships with parents.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Now, how does Axel, the author group, how does it support the authors sort of from the beginning all the way to the end? How do those packages work for both like the adults and also the children's books?
Sure, of course. So we walk through every step of the book design, publishing, and beyond process. So a lot of authors come to us and we work on their manuscript with them. Some of them come and the book has already been edited. That's great. Others still need some work on their manuscript. We can go through that entire process. We also design the book. So we take care of all elements of not just book production, but things like metadata, a synopsis, picking the right categories, advising on retail price, all of that, all of those elements. And then, of course, we publish the book and we can help with marketing. So if we get an author early enough, then we start planting those seeds and that foundation. Let's talk about your social media. Let's talk about getting reviews. But even beyond, there are so many ways that an author can still be supported. So yeah, it can really be a turnkey solution from beginning to end.
Brilliant. It's really nice to have that sort of hand holding when you're maybe not so confident and you really want your book to succeed at first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, brilliant. Thank you so much for joining me today. I think that's been really helpful to go through that launch process step by step, especially to hear about how the children's books would be different, because I've got a children's book, but I've never really focused on it too much. And so it's something I'm going to have to come and chat to you about later on.
Oh, absolutely. It's so funny. There are so many people who have written children's books and they can be so wonderful. They're really, really creative.
Yeah, definitely. Because my specialty is definitely the Amazon side of it. And I find that quite tricky with the children's book. So I think maybe doing a bit more offline marketing could be something that would work for me. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Just before we go, I've got one final question, and that's what one book do you recommend that everyone should be reading at the moment?
At the moment, I have a couple of authors who have launched some really cool books lately, and I just want to plug them. So there's Dana S. Diaz. She's written a couple of memoirs, Gasping for Air, Choking on Shame. Those are really great books that follow her own trajectory actually through an abusive relationship, but most importantly, her survival. So that's been really great. We have Adele Royce, who just launched a thriller, Summer's Blood, which is so well written. So those are two I would recommend. For creatives out there, these are some older books, but I love The Creative Habit by Twyla Tharp. I think that's just a wonderful book. Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't you agree? It's just such a great little book. The Artist's Way. So for creative types, those are some classics, but I go back to them time and again. So
brilliant. Well, those are great recommendations. Thank you very much. Thanks. Those are the show notes.
Perfect.
Well, thanks for joining us, Alexa. I've loved speaking to you.
Teddy.
Hopefully we'll get you back on to speak about another of your services soon, but we'll speak again soon.
Thank you so much for having me, Teddy.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Publishing Performance podcast. I really hope you found today's episode inspiring. I love chatting to authors, writers, and people in the publishing world. Now, just before we wrap up, let me tell you about Publishing Performance, the #1 platform for authors who want to increase Amazon book sales, but are not really sure where to start. Now, this show is all about helping you to sell more books. And if you're looking to boost your publishing game and to maximize your book's potential on Amazon, then Publishing Performance is designed to help authors just like you to grow your readership and to reach a much wider audience. Now, I know that Amazon ads can be slightly complicated, which is why Publishing Performance is like having a personalized ad account manager to create your ad campaigns, to choose your best keywords, and to make adjustments in real time. Now, if you're investing in ads, you really want to make sure that your investment is being used effectively, and Publishing Performance does just that. It aims to make your budget go further, improve your organic rank, and target keywords more effectively. Just go to publishingperformance.com to get started with Amazon ads for just $1. Thank you so much for tuning into the Publishing Performance Show. I really hope you found today's episode inspiring. I absolutely love chatting to authors, writers, and people in the publishing world. Now, just before we wrap up, I want to tell you about our Publishing Performance Starter Packs. These are curated episodes and collections organised by topic that makes it super easy to find the exact content you're looking for. So whether you're wanting to deep dive into marketing strategies, explore productivity techniques, or focus on any specific area of publishing, we've organised our episodes into targeted playlists just for you. And you can find these all at teddyagsmith.com. And also, whilst you're here, let me tell you about Publishing Performance. It's the #1 platform for authors who want to increase Amazon book sales but aren't really sure where to start. Now, this show is all about helping you to sell more books, and if you're looking to boost your publishing game and to maximise your book's potential on Amazon, then Publishing Performance is designed to help authors just like you to grow your readership and to reach a much wider audience. Now, I know that Amazon ads can be slightly complicated, which is why Publishing Performance is like having a personalised ad account manager to create your ad campaigns for you, to choose your best keywords and to make adjustments in real time and to optimise them over time to save you money and to make more sales. Now, if you're investing in ads, you really want to make sure your investment is being used effectively, and Publishing Performance does just that. It aims to make your budget go further, improve your organic rank, and target keywords more effectively. You can get started with Amazon ads for free for 30 days at publishingperformance.com, and there's a link in the show notes to get that free 30 days trial. Thank you so much for tuning into the Publishing Performance Show. I really hope you found today's episode inspiring. I absolutely love chatting to authors, writers, and people in the publishing world. Now, just before we wrap up, I want to tell you about our Publishing Performance Starter Packs. These are curated episodes and collections organised by topic that makes it super easy to find the exact content you're looking for. So whether you're wanting to deep dive into marketing strategies, explore productivity techniques, or focus on any specific area of publishing, we've organised our episodes into targeted playlists just for you. And you can find these all at teddyagsmith.com. And also, whilst you're here, let me tell you about Publishing Performance. It's the #1 platform for authors who want to increase Amazon book sales but aren't really sure where to start. Now, this show is all about helping you to sell more books, and if you're looking to boost your publishing game and to maximise your book's potential on Amazon, then Publishing Performance is designed to help authors just like you to grow your readership and to reach a much wider audience. Now, I know that Amazon ads can be slightly complicated, which is why Publishing Performance is like having a personalised ad account manager to create your ad campaigns for you, to choose your best keywords and to make adjustments in real time and to optimise them over time to save you money and to make more sales. Now, if you're investing in ads, you really want to make sure your investment is being used effectively, and Publishing Performance does just that. It aims to make your budget go further, improve your organic rank, and target keywords more effectively. You can get started with Amazon ads for free for 30 days at publishingperformance.com, and there's a link in the show notes to get that free 30 days trial.